All right, welcome back to Cruising on Crypto. I am Craig, and I have Greg with me, also known as Bludex Online, and we're going to talk about what the heck is going on with Time Wonderland and what caused this mind-blowing drop in price in the last 24 hours. And Greg has done a lot of digging into it. He made a Medium article yesterday about Time Wonderland's new announcements and how they're going to wrap memo, and maybe that's part of it, but he'll discuss more on what he's learned in his deep dive into Time Wonderland. Thank you, Greg, for being on the channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Craig.
So, what do you think has caused this? As you can see from the chart on our screen here, this back a couple of days ago was 105,000, and now it fell down to 38,000 earlier today.
Exactly. Yeah. Quite a monumental collapse. And there's a lot of reasons that this is happening, right? It's kind of like a series of unfortunate events over the last couple of days, and they all do kind of compound with each other. So there's a few things that's going on here. So the first and foremost, there's an article that was displayed a couple days ago that went into the new strategy where they're going to be moving from focusing on time, the time token, to the W memo token, right? The wrapped memories token. And what this does, and for those that don't know the difference between time and W memo, holding W memo is exactly the same as staking time. W memo is literally just like staking time and compounding the rebases automatically. If you had one position that started at X day and you held it for 100 days or whatever, at the end, the total money value of your position, whether you're staking time or holding W memo, would be exactly the same, right? But again, W memo takes all those rebases into account and automatically compounds them. So they wanted to shift to this W memo for a couple reasons, right? For one reason being that it's much more composable, right? When I say composable, that means that you can use this as collateral if you want to leverage against it. And we'll get more into that in a second. Or you can put it in a liquidity pool. Or you could send it cross chain, right? So if you can do more things with W memo, maybe if it's on Phantom versus Avalanche, for example, right? So there's a whole lot of reasons to have W memo. It's better for taxes in a lot of ways as well. But the big thing is when you think about time versus W memo, you think about the liquidity pools, right? So when you have these rebase tokens and their APY is really, really high, there's tons and tons of sell pressure. And I've been writing about this for weeks, if not over a month, just saying how devastating high APY is to the protocol owned liquidity pools, where basically it is just taking whatever that half of the LP is, that stable coins, it's literally just extracting all of those dollars out of that LP over time. And it's not good for anybody. So when you have these high APYs, the protocol and liquidity, the LP will go down indefinitely over time. You give it enough time at a high APY, those LPs will lose like 98% plus of their value. Now, the smaller the liquidity pools get, the more volatile it gets, the more slippage there is when you buy or sell into it. Last week, there was the Time MIM liquidity pool that was owned by the protocol. It was about $400 million. Yesterday, it was about $40 million because they started deconstructing it because they're moving from Trader Joe to Avalanche for one. I'm so sorry. Moving from Trader Joe to Sushi Swap for one. And secondly, they're also moving their focus from time to W memo, right? So they're building out this W memo liquidity pool. So they're moving liquidity. And during this transition, you will absolutely have more volatility. So if people were just selling their rebases as they normally would, and it would make the price move by, it would drop by say 1% a day, for example, on average. Well, if you removed all of that liquidity, those cells that used to make the price drop by 1% a day are now making it drop by multiple percent a day, right? And this volatility happens with this thin liquidity. And so we always knew that this was a risk that could happen as they moved the liquidity to focus on W memo. So that's one thing. The other thing that's happening is just yesterday, Olympus DAO also had a big crash. What happened? There was a whale who held about $12 million of Olympus or of Ohm, and they sold it, and they sold it all at once, and it created a lot of slippage. and it wound up, freaking everybody out. Like, oh, what's going on? Is it failing? And as people start freaking out, people start selling, right? And Olympus Dow is considered. I mean, they're called Ohm Forks for a reason, right? Like they're like the front runner. They're the blue chip of this space. So people think Olympus Dow is failing, then the rest of them must fail too. There still must be something going on across the board. People don't take time to research. They just see something selling off, they freak out, they sell more. Right. So that's another thing that's impacting, putting more downward pressure on Wonderland. And the next thing that puts a lot of downward pressure on Wonderland is the fact that WMemo is a highly collateralized and leveraged asset, because you can borrow MIM against it, against WMemo, and they've been offering this service for months now, right? And there were a lot of people who probably had that tuned to a level where they thought that there was no chance that they could get liquidated, right? Even if you were to do it yesterday, right? Some people, think that, oh, there's no way these things can drop 50% in a day. Just yesterday, if you were to buy WMemo, say 100,000, and you were to do like a 40% loan to value, which by most standards, some people might consider not terribly risky, you would have gotten liquidated because it dropped all the way down to 37,000 today, right? It dropped by over 60% at one moment. And then there are these big market manipulators, these big funds that make a lot of money off of liquidating the leveraged positions. And it's actually part of what keeps the peg on MIM, right? So that also adds to the volatility of these assets. So we have this perfect storm of the Olympus Dow whale sell, the moving liquidity from time to WMemo, the highly leveraged nature of WMemo, and the fact that they also opened up tens of millions of dollars more leverage in the middle of all of this, right? So there are potentially a bunch of, right around here, and give me a second, I'm just going to zoom in on the chart, so it's just the last few hours here. If you look at it now, it was right around this time period that the collateral was being offered. Well, if someone didn't know what they were doing around here, and like they said, the maximum that you could borrow against is 75%. Say they were in the process and they were, deposited some WMemo, took 75% MIM out, and they're in the process of buying more WMemo to add the collateral to make it safer. Well, it didn't take very long, right? From here at 1:50 p.m. and here just half hour later, it already dropped by almost 15% right there. It is unfortunate. Unfortunately, a lot of people got really, really wrecked today. People who've probably been holding this for a very, very long time, who thought they had very safe loan to value ratios. And unfortunately, just all of these, again, there's a perfect storm, everything lined up here. Who knows? If you look at the chart right now, I mean, maybe it's bottoming out, maybe it's not, who knows? I mean, you could have said that it looked like it was bottoming out right here, and then boom, in an instant, in one sale, basically, it went from 50,000 to 37,000, right? The price of WMemo dropped by 13,000, right? 25% or something like that instantly. And again, it flagged a lot of liquidations. Who knows where it's going to go? As of right now, the treasury value to market cap ratio, it's about even, which is kind of crazy, because I didn't think we were ever going to see that on Wonderland when you compare it to all of its competitors. I mean, the team behind Wonderland, the assets that they invest in, all the potential synergies with other products that they have relationships with and that they own, you would think that this would be one of the highest potential growth rebase tokens out there. And so it's at a crazy value right now. But again, it's one of those things, do your own research. It could fall way further. There could be way more liquidation that we don't, events that could be possible that we can't even see. And it's really, really risky and volatile asset. But that's the lesson is, if you don't know what you're doing with leverage, and you're not willing to take on a lot of risk, don't invest what you can't afford to lose, because things like this can happen.
And the other thing we were talking about off camera is that Daniel Sesta had said in, I guess, an AMA question, whether time eventually wouldn't be traded anymore and that everybody would just trade in WMemo. And he said that could happen, which could cause a little bit of fear of the unknown if you're somebody who's always been buying time, that the coin's no longer going to be traded. So.
Yeah, so I think that created a lot of confusion, and I wrote this in my article today, is when you have confusion, you have doubt. And when there's doubt, there's risk. And when there's risk, people just sell, right? Because people have already seen so many times when things like, APY yield is dropped, that people just evacuate from the token, even though it's, in my opinion, an unreasonable thing to do. But unfortunately, the psychology of other people who trade absolutely matters in price action. It's not always about the fundamentals. So if people feel like, okay, well, if there's no time anymore, then how does this yield? What does this yield? How does it work? And maybe the APY will go down. Maybe it'll go away. And they're thinking, oh God, people are going to sell this, and then it just it causes this panic, right? The fundamentals are there. The treasury is strong. The team is strong, right? It's just that if people feel like there's a lot of risk, then they're going to sell. And then again, we have these cascading liquidation events that could happen. And with the thin liquidity from change from time W memo, you have what happened with Olympus Dow yesterday. All these things line up together, and it causes this to happen. So hopefully it'll stabilize. Hopefully it'll come right back up. But who knows what could happen? But until their liquidity is 100% in WMMO, as long as people are holding time and they unknowingly sell it into some LP somewhere, it could cause some issues. So I think they're going to figure it out. It's just I think we heard that there was over $50 million of liquidations from the collapse today in price, wow. It's a very, very sad thing to see. The thing is, the only thing about liquidation though is that they got to keep what they loaned against it, right? They definitely lost 10 or 15% of that liquidation fee. So it's not the total end of the world. It means that there is a situation where you couldn't probably time the bottom to get some of your position back, but it's still unpleasant, still very much unpleasant. So, and especially if they looped the leverage, because then, if they kept looping the leverage into it, then they probably did lose almost everything. And that's the lesson that everyone should learn is don't mess around too much with leverage, because you can get wrecked and it is very risky. And there are a lot of people who are really, really, really smart, who have many millions, if not billions of dollars, who know how to make money in these situations. It happens in the Bitcoin markets. It happens in Ethereum. And when you have these other pools where the liquidity is not nearly as deep as Bitcoin and Ethereum, you don't need nearly as much money to flag things for liquidation. And hence the risk is just that much more. We saw it happen with Spartacus, right? Spartacus forked Abracadabra.money, and they started letting you borrow against their wrap stake SPA token. Same thing happened over there.
Killed the price.
Killed the price. Liquidity was thin. Tons of people selling. Tons of people got liquidated, and it's really, really unfortunate. So, this is really, really, really risky. Crypto leverage. There's not. You might as well be in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Just betting it all on red and roulette or something like that, because there is gambling involved in this. So people need to be very, very careful.
Yeah. People are going with the YOLO mindset. Yeah? Go big or go home. But of course, they wake up the next morning and they've got nothing. And they don't
never invest what you can't afford to lose.
Exactly.
That's for sure in anything in crypto, right? I mean, you can't apply the same thoughts you would in typical investing all the time to this, just because it's just so much more risky and so much more volatile. It's so much more thin. There's nowhere near the amount of institutions and people that are, especially these off-exchange things with these decentralized applications like Wonderland Money, right? Mm-hmm. You can't buy WMemo on a Coinbase or an FTX or anything like that. Maybe soon, but the shallower the liquidity, the more volatile it's going to be. The more volatile it's going to be, the riskier it is to leverage. And it's a lesson that unfortunately costs a lot of people money to learn today, but so it goes. Hopefully we see a bottoming out here, and maybe it'll stabilize. If you look at the chart on my screen right now, at least the patterns seem to say that could happen. But this red wick that we see in the middle of the screen around 3:10 p.m. Eastern on January 17th, it didn't take long. That happened in an instant, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing to say it can't happen again. If people are leveraging up like crazy right now, I don't know if there's any MEMS left to borrow at this moment, but if there is, people could get themselves in the same exact trouble, and this could happen again. So just be careful out there, everyone.
Exactly. So before we move on to your Medium article, I just want to ask you if they eventually stop listing time even on the Wonderland homepage there, the desktop. The problem is Memo is, they always say the value of Memo is it's kind of the ratio of what time has been since the beginning of time. If you just constantly staked, what would it be worth? Problem is, if they don't ever show you time, how will we know what rate of return we're getting on Memo?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is if you're transferring from one mindset to another, because
Right.
staking time at the end of the day is the same thing as holding WMMO. They have the
Right.
same exact price action.
I'm just saying it's very visible. When you go to the site, it says you're making 9.6% over 5 days by staking your time. But if they take time right out of the equation and say, well, memo is just like owning time that's already staked. But if time's not there to say what rate of return you're getting, are they going to say, well, W memo is growing at 9.6%? Is that what they're planning to say?
Right. And this is exactly what I've been saying in my articles for the last month about the APY and what it actually means, because people just sell the rebases, right? So
Right.
you're not, say you make, what is it, like they say the ROI in 5 days is like 9%, right? You're not making 9% ROI. Those rebases are getting sold generally. So it is just absolutely diluting time. It's diluting the liquidity pools. It's very, very dangerous. It's not good for anybody.
Right.
So nobody was ever making a rate of return equal to these crazy APYs that you were seeing. If they were to do 60,000 APY for a year, time would be worth like $5 to $20 or something in a year. It would be worth almost nothing. So and what does that do to the psychology of investors if they've bought it at 2,000, 5,000, 8,000 or whatever? Even though their position went up by many hundreds of thousands of a percent, people don't always look at it that way. That's why these rebase tokens, I would say 99% of the people who invest in them don't really understand how they work, and they're buying them for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that because people don't understand, they don't see that those ROIs, that they think they're getting these ROIs, and when they don't see it with the time token, then they don't know how WMemo is going to perform, when no matter what, it would have performed the same. But again, it depends on the psychology of the people who are buying and selling the tokens too. So that's why I always tell people that you should not look at the APY. Don't look at the rebases. Don't look at so many of these metrics. Look at what is the market cap, what is the treasury value,
Right.
what are they doing with their treasury, who are the developers, how risky are they, can they innovate, can they bring returns to the treasury and therefore share it with the people who are holding the tokens. There's been no other rebase token that I've seen, treasury-backed token that I've seen, that has the talent and the connections that
Right.
Wonderland has. So in all this price action, none of the fundamentals have changed. If anything, they've only gotten more positive because they're taking measures to stabilize the liquidity of their token, which should be a very, very positive thing. This is going to be a net positive in the long term. But unfortunately, we had to pay for it in short-term price volatility, which means a short-term crash in the price.
Mm-hmm.
So
bottom line conclusion from you, and I agree, is nothing super negative happened that caused this. It's just a perception thing. People got afraid. Yeah. People started selling the unknown. Then you get a Alameda researcher or whoever who jumps in there and starts helping manipulate the price down so that they can pick up some of these liquidations and get the fees out of that. Well, that's good.
Exactly.
I've still got my I always say time. I'm going to have to get used to saying I still got my wrapped memo.
You have your wonderful memories.
Yeah, my wonderful memories.
There will be a lot of people who won't have very wonderful memories.
No, not if they got in 2 days ago.
I hate to laugh because I really do. I do feel bad.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of people who had very, very good intentions, or either amateur and had a lot of faith and stuff, and they definitely got financially hurt today, and it is very, very sad, and it's unfortunate, but this is kind of the story and how it goes. They're still in the wild west of crypto. So, but like you said, if you weren't leveraging and you're holding, it's probably going to stabilize, and it's probably going to be. If we look at this in a year or a few months or whatever, it's going to be in the past. And
with a project like this, it really is time in the market, not timing the market. And there already are things coming. We're going to be getting airdrops of that bet swap that they just invested in. And in the future, new projects that Wonderland's going to invest in. They're talking about airdropping coins and stuff. So there's going to be extra benefits to holding it that aren't necessarily obvious right now when you look at the price of the coin. So I'm still quite bullish in it, even though, it was a bit of a haircut to the old portfolio today. But so let's get on to your Medium article. You just wrote it, and we're talking about the benefits of there you are. Why are you so bullish?
Yeah, exactly. I know. I feel really bad because I made this yesterday, right when it was basically double the price as of this very moment.
Yeah.
But again, I think we kind of covered a lot of this already, right? Is that staking time is the same thing as holding WMemo. that the rebases damage the liquidity pool, right? And so we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's only going to be more positive. So overall, I actually think we already did a really good job covering what I said in this article yesterday.
So if time's not minting anymore, like let's just say in the future there's no time to even buy to stake to mint. So like you said, they might have quoted 9.6% every 5 days, but the reality is that the value of the coin was, they're minting new coins, so the value of the coin should go down over time. So you're not really getting that. Now in the future, if everybody's in wrap memo, there's no new time coins to be minted. Therefore, there shouldn't be that inflation of the coin.
Exactly.
But then what are they going to say the rate of return is? What do you gut feeling think they're going to do? They got to offer some rate of return, or people are going to go, why am I in this DAO if I'm not getting anything? Right?
It's you have to think about it like it's a VC or a hedge fund or a
so the value
fund.
of the treasury going up is what?
It's the value of the treasury going up, exactly. What they have a treasury like $1 billion, of course it's a little bit less now, but roughly $1 billion treasury that they are going to invest. They have very, very advanced people who are very knowledgeable in crypto,
right?
And they don't necessarily, and they have these connections where they can get these VC deals where there's a lot of potential of money to be made. This is what Web3 should be about, right? Recently there's been all these Twitter spats with like Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk, and they're saying that Web3, that's just the VC's game, and all the retail people are just going to be the VC's exit liquidity. Well, guess what? We're seeing a paradigm shift here, right? Where the actual people, the retail investors, they don't have to be accredited investors, and they absolutely have these opportunities that were only available to the rich, and that they're now available through things like Wonderland. Mm-hmm. And this is only the beginning, right? Who knows how far this can go? So if you stay focused on the treasury, the treasury worth $1 billion today, in a year or 2 years or 3 years, who knows how much it could be worth? Right. 2 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion, 20 billion. Right. I have no idea, but they seem to know what they're doing in terms of where they're investing their assets. Their treasury, it has a lot of very unique things, right? Mm-hmm. They're doing the whole convex play. They're doing the looping of the UST, the Anchor protocol, right? So they're getting a somewhat relatively safe return on stablecoin farms, right? And they're basically, you're returning that because the valuations will get better and better over time, which means more people will buy it as the ratio between the market cap and the treasury value look better, right? That situation will be arbitrage. Therefore, your total position will go up over time. So that's the rate of return. Don't look at the rate of return of the rebases, because no one was ever getting a rate of return in those rebases. It was all fake. It was all imaginary. Right. But if the treasury grows, people will keep buying it. People will make sure that it's priced fairly, and everyone's position will grow alongside that. Right.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Greg. I'm glad we get to make me feel a little better. I was off camera. I went to the gym, and it was earlier this morning. I bought some. I'm equating the time price. I bought some time at 1,500, and I went to the gym, and I came out, and it was 1,100. And then I was like, "What the heck?" And I talked to another guy, and it was 970. And I was like, "What is going on?" And that's why I called you, and you're like, "Hey, yeah, let's do a video. I can explain some of it." So I'm glad we were able to talk. It made me relax just a little bit, because it just seemed like it came out of left field for me. It had already fallen a lot when I bought earlier today, and I thought I got a sweet deal. Like we were talking about with people who leverage, and they think, well, I'm going to leverage up because right now is a good time, and then you see the reality. Hindsight being 2020, you go, if I'd waited a little longer, I could have gotten an even better price. But look at that, it's come back quite a bit, and that's impressive.
It has. I mean, as of about 3:10 p.m. to 4, so in 1 hour, it went from a low of 37,000 to now 58,000, right? That's nice. It's gone up, what is that off the top of my head, like 50% or something like that. It's come back a lot. Again, who knows? One of these red candles could be waiting for us.
That looked like a whale. Some whale was trying to drop a bag again, or Alameda Research or somebody else was trying to play games with the price again. But, once the fear goes away, everybody will wake up to the fact that the treasury is growing in a very, bullish way. And therefore the value of the coin, especially now if we're not minting a bunch of new time constantly, that should make WMMO go up in value over time.
Exactly.
So there you go. Well, thanks a lot, Greg. Hopefully we'll talk again in the next week or so. I'm sure you'll have another Medium article of good, juicy information. Oh, and by the way, yes, I always put it in the description down below. I'll put his Twitter address, which you can say what it is. It's not actually Bludex though. It'd be easier if it was Bludex.
It's GSG0127.
I'll put it on the screen right now, but it'll also be down in the description, and also a link to his latest Medium article so you can read it. All right, thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Well, hopefully you found that interview with Greg, also known as Bludex, informative or entertaining. If so, show the channel some love by giving it a thumbs up. Check out his Twitter and his Medium article pages in the description below. And look at the chart. We have recovered quite a bit. I put the time chart on this time because in this video I did mention that earlier today I thought I got a sweet deal buying time at 1,500 because it was much higher days ago. And then it collapsed all the way down to like $840. And I was very, very sad, as many of you probably were. But as you can see, things have come back a lot, and that makes me feel a lot better. So again, with a project that's as good as this, it's all about time in the market, accruing those rewards, those yields, those airdrops of new coins and all that. So gotta just take a breath when a day like this comes for no apparently good reason. Because yeah, these things pass, and you'll do fine. You'll do fine. So until next time, this is Craig signing off, wishing you happiness, health, and wealth in that order. Ciao for now.